There are a lot of strange things happening in the world today. One of those strange things is the whole situation with computers. I just made this video about the whole thing with AI, and there's all that about computers, but even more so than that is just the situation with like your own computer. I mean, it's one thing about like quantum computing and AI and the data center needs and all of this kind of business. And it's interesting because I was thinking about it, and it's like this book that I have here. I had this book back when I was in school for a class called Philosophy of Artificial Intelligence. And this would have been like in 1995, maybe 96. Dr. Mary Litch, who's from MIT, was the professor, and she was a philosophy professor and also had like a degree in I don't know, like engineering or something, and very, very smart and very thoughtful. And this textbook was written in like 1994 maybe, and everybody was thinking about all of this kind of stuff way back then with, it's literally, all about like the Turing test, and it's one of the latter chapters is on parallel distributed processing, which is kind of like the whole thing with the GPUs being able to do a lot of the heavy lifting for the artificial intelligence, at least from what I can understand. I don't pretend to know all about it, because I don't. But what I'm interested in right now is just about my own computers. My computers. And I would be interested in what you guys are doing so far as your computers for music making, for content creation, for video editing, and all of this, because from what I can tell, it's really, it's like the best of times and the worst of times, because the power that we have available is enormous, and that's great. But it's also really confusing because, and this is what I'm getting at, the last MacBook Pro, I was a Mac guy for a long time. The last MacBook Pro that I bought new was in 2011, and that was a 17-inch MacBook Pro with, top specs, except for the hard drive size. And in 2011, on a MacBook Pro, number one, there was a 17-inch available. Like, that was great. But you could open it up. You could open it up and put in a new hard drive yourself, which I did. It came in 2011 with a hard drive. You could put a 2.5 SATA SSD in there and service it yourself in a lot of ways this way. And it was that was the last one. That was the last year for the 17-inch, and it was not long after that that Apple introduced the, machined case where you can't really do anything to it yourself. And that's interesting because also in 2011, this was the year that they discontinued Final Cut Pro 7, which, if anybody remembers all of that, that was also the same year that they introduced Final Cut Pro X, which when they introduced this piece of software, it did not get rave reviews, let's say, because they removed a whole lot of features that, professional video editors would want. And it was so strange because this was one of the major platforms for video editing among professionals in the industry. So to kind of like decapitate it like this and dumb it down was very confusing. And, you know, it wasn't just Final Cut Pro 7. This is not their only move this way. It was 2009 that they got rid of Soundtrack Pro. It was 2014 that they got rid of Aperture. I was an early adopter, 1.0, Aperture 1.0. Went down to B&H Warehouse and bought the copy myself in a box, take it home. And, you know, they got rid of that after building up a fan base and a user base of professional photographers. I mean, some professional photographers, Vincent Laforet, I think that's how you pronounce his name, Vincent Laforet. You know, he had an enormous, he was a New York Times photographer, he had an enormous body of work using that software. And then they just pull the plug on it, just like that, like no problem. And really, without much advanced warning, other than the fact of like, well, it didn't get updated for a while and it was quiet. But that also happened to Logic Pro. I was a Logic Pro user for a long time, and you know, it used to be Logic Studio, the box set, was a whole professional package of professional software. And then they just let it kind of, when it went to Logic Pro X and it became $199, they just kind of let it go. You know, they let it just flounder with an enormous amount of bugs, and it, for a long time, it felt like maybe they were going to let that go the way of Aperture. And I'm still to this day not sure that they were seriously considering that during that time. So I moved away from Logic at that time because it just seemed ridiculous. But I mean, if you think about the way all of that software was put together, I mean, Final Cut Studio box set that had compressor, it had Soundtrack Pro, it had all these different things, motion, all combined in there, and it was like a professional software package. And the Logic Pro box set that had all the stuff in there, it was like $1,500 or something like that when I bought it. It was a professional software package. Aperture was professional software. And you didn't have to be a professional, quote unquote, to use it. And just remember that all professional means is that you make your money from doing that, whatever that is. That's all professional means. I've known many photographers who are, quote, professional, and they don't take the greatest pictures. And I've known some amateur photographers who don't make a dime off their photography, who are fantastic photographers. And, you know, same with music and everything like this. So that's one thing. But the only thing that I could draw from as a conclusion to all of this was that Apple really was not interested in the professional market. They don't care about professionals. And it kind of makes sense in a way, because it's like, well, you know, what is the professional market? Professionals are demanding about their software. They have very specialty needs about how the software functions. They have very high standards, like it has to function at a high standard and without compromises. And so they're kind of, you know, they're kind of persnickety about things. And, you know, why cater to that segment of of users if you don't have to? And clearly, Apple at the same time was creating all of these consumer goods, which was like the iPod and all this business, and it's like, you know, really moving in the consumer direction. So I decided in 2011 that was going to be the last time I bought a new MacBook Pro. I bought a used one in 2016. just a little 13-inch, and it was cool. I thought that it was going to be powerful enough to do what I needed, but it was only duo core, and it basically couldn't do anything. I believe it was 2014, I got an HP desktop, a still down here, Z230, just to kind of test the waters of seeing, like, well, where are we at with PCs? And do I have to be locked in to the Apple ecosystem for music making and for creative work? Do I have to do it this way? And the HP Z230 was perfectly fine, and I was amazed that, like, for $30 I could get a FireWire card to put in there and hook everything up, and it found all the drivers, it found everything it needed, and within less than 5 minutes install and downloading the drivers, it was reading all of my FireWire peripherals. And I was like, well, you can't do that with a Mac. And so in 2016, I got a Lenovo P70, 17-inch laptop. 17 inch is a big laptop, big screen, had the matte finish, mil spec so far as durability. It had two M.2 NVMEs, and I'm looking over here, these are just my notes, over here. Two M.2 NVMe SSDs. It had one 2.5 SATA SSD. You could change the RAM yourself. You could go up to like 128 gigs of RAM. It had multiple slots. I want to say 4 slots, RAM slots at least. It had a CD, DVD super drive, 3 USB-As, 2 USB-C/Thunderbolt, Ethernet, SD card reader, smart card reader, PCIe Express card reader. You could get a docking station so that all of your peripherals with your HDMI and your mini display port and everything else. Oh, and it had a mini display port as well on the PC itself. And you could put it in the dock, and then all your peripherals come up, and then take it out, and none of this unplugging business and all that. It was great. And I bought that computer, the Lenovo P70, with just one 5400 RPM hard drive in it, in the 2.5 SATA slot, and I think maybe 8 gigs of RAM, something like this. And I populated the M.2 slots and changed out the 2.5 SATA myself. I went up to 64 gigs of RAM myself. And it's super easy with just a Phillips head screwdriver and a couple of screws on the bottom. You take it out and everything just slots right in. Do it in 10 minutes. And I bought that computer for $1,500. Base price at B&H, off the shelf. No ordering, no configuring, just buy it off the shelf from B&H. Where is anything like that now? I don't see anything out there like this now. So far as this kind of an offering. And so it turns out that Windows 10 is no longer going to get security updates next month, October. And if you're like me, running Windows without security updates is not exactly what I would call a good idea. So I have been thinking about something else. So I'm looking back to Apple because I'm not really seeing anything in the PC world that, so far as laptops, that I'm liking. There's gaming laptops and they're just all crazy. I was looking at some of that stuff. Dell had some offerings, HP with the ZBook Fury, but I started looking at the prices and they're really pricey. They're really pricey. And while I love the fact that, you know, on an HP ZBook Fury, I can put 4 SSDs in there, M.2 SSDs, that's fantastic. But, you know, to get like even 8 gigs of GPU power, VRAM, you're looking at like $3,500 or something like this. That just seems crazy. So I started looking back into Apple and their Apple Silicone, the M chips, system on a chip, and it is really impressive. It's really impressive the way that they're able to utilize both the GPU and the CPU and not have to pass data back and forth, causing lag there, like it can share this bandwidth. And the power savings, the energy efficiency is really, really impressive, and that's something I want to address. Because I think we ought to be thinking about that part of it very seriously, and more on that in 1 minute. The other fact of that is that, you know, I'm still on Windows 10 and I've used Windows 11 a few times, and it just seems terrible to me. It seems to me that Windows as an operating system in general is just in terrible shape. It's a wreck. So these are the options I'm looking at. I've been looking at like the Dell ProMax T2 Tower. And the reason I'm looking at that's a desktop. I'm looking at that because basically I could have all of my peripherals just plugged in the same way that I do with my Lenovo. It's just that obviously you can't then use it as a laptop. So I'm thinking, well, I could have all of my stuff here plugged in to the desktop, and I don't want to just completely walk away from Windows. And the reason that I don't want to walk away from Windows is I don't really want to be I don't want to be back in the same situation that I was before of being, well, we'll just say kind of afraid to try to do music and creative stuff with a PC, because that locks you into the Apple world, and that's where they want you. And I have a lot of resentment for the fact that, like, well, if I want to have a laptop and I want to have 2 hard drives in there, I can't even buy a Mac computer. They just don't offer that. If I want to change out the RAM myself and upgrade that, well, you can't do that with a Mac. If the hard drive dies and I say, well, okay, I'll get a new hard drive, I'll just run over to Best Buy, pull one off the shelf and stick it in there. Well, you can't do that with a Mac. And it doesn't have to be that way. I don't believe it has to be that way. And I don't like the fact that they have pushed their user base into that model. So I'm going to try to keep one foot in the PC world of where at least I can have some semblance of control over the way that I can configure the machine, and have some choice to the matter. And if it is the case that I can't have a laptop without spending $5,000 on it to have all of the expandability and those options, then maybe it's better if I just have, say, a MacBook Pro laptop and then have a PC desktop with where I can put in a lot of hard drives, put in all the different things. And that's what I've decided I'm going to do. And the reason that I really like the MacBook Pro laptops is the energy efficiency. And this brings me back to the other point. The last thing that I wanted to bring up here was I saw some statistics there where basically if you're comparing, say, an Nvidia RTX 5090 graphics card with the Apple M4 Max chip, you're getting comparable power there and speeds and all that business. And the Mac system is doing that at roughly 1/10 of the energy consumption. And that is really interesting considering all of the goings on about how much energy all of the AI is going to cost us. And when I say cost us, I really mean cost us, because it looks like that's how that's going to go. So I just saw a piece from the More Perfect Union, and it was all about like cost of AI, big tech, and their quest for data and power, something to this effect. And you know, the quote that stuck in my mind was there being a tidal wave of new costs that will hit all of us. And I just thought that was, how is that possible? Where is that coming from? Why would that come to us? So I would encourage everyone out there to look at your energy bill, especially if you live in an area where there is a data center being built, because it seems to be the case that in many of these areas, the energy bills are going up even when people are using less energy. And this is just basically subsidizing the cost of the data center for them. And if you live somewhere where a data center moves in and it's Amazon or Meta or whatever, these companies are spending billions on these data centers. And they are making record profits. And the profits that they are projected to make are just astronomical. So the idea that they are going to expect everyone else to foot the bill for their data centers, for them to make these record profits, is just unacceptable. And I would encourage everyone to pay very close attention to your energy bill. And if you see this happening in your area, speak out in whatever way that you can, because if we don't, you can be sure we'll pay for it. Okay, I think that about does it for this one. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on the bell for notifications. And if you found this content useful, consider joining me over at my Patreon. Your support there is most appreciated and helps me to continue making this content. And about my Patreon, I have some free sample packs available there now. I have a free digital download of my zine playbook, which is a kind of a handbook for techniques of making music. And most importantly, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.